So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk again to the Tate fans and to the trads and to all those who've been bamboozled by the lie that the West is degenerate and Islam is the answer. I want to talk to you, those people. There's not many of them here, but I want to talk to them that appear on camera. So firstly, let's just talk about progressive culture. I want to say I totally agree with everybody who says that Western culture is degenerate. It is. It's addicted to alcohol. It's addicted to drugs. You know, the socialists separated the proletariat from the opium of the people being the Christian religion, and the proletariat simply replaced religion with real opiates. Opium, cocaine, cannabis, alcohol is rampant through working class communities. Degeneracy in terms of sleeping around, having multiple partners, having sex with multiple partners, gay marriage, gay adoption, transvestite ideology, all of it degenerate and backwards, a step back to the things that brought the Roman Empire to collapse in the 4th century. And the Daowagandists have pulled a brilliant move. And I applaud them for their intelligence. And I say to you Christians, you need to play a better game of chess. You need to box smarter than you are, because you're being outplayed. Because they're saying that Islam is the answer to the degeneracy of the West. It's certainly one kind of answer. But I want to propose to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you fall for that total rubbish, you're going to be replacing one kind of degeneracy with another. Why do I call Islam degenerate?
Why, Bob?
Let me give you some examples.
Give it.
Islam is degenerate because it teaches adult breastfeeding. No word of a lie. I was shocked when I read this myself. In the Islamic custom, the Islamic tradition, if you're outside of someone's family and you want to be adopted inside that family so that you can be seen by the women as halal rather than haram, you have to suckle the breasts of the mother of the family. And if you suckle, and the Muslim says, we're jealous. No, we're not. That's degenerate. It's as degenerate as going to a nightclub and chatting up some slut in a short skirt and taking her to bed for the night. It's just as degenerate. But that's what Islam teaches. There's nothing like that in Christianity. Nothing like that in Christianity. You adopt someone because you love them, and that is enough to include them in your family. Incidentally, Muslims don't even have a concept of adoption, which is because Muhammad wanted to marry the wife of his adopted son. So he abolished adoption to make it legal for him to pursue his fancy of his adopted son's wife. That's degenerate, ladies and gentlemen. We're not answering the degeneracy of the West. We would be replacing it with another one. Another example of degeneracy within Islam. Islam permits child marriage. And when I say child, ladies and gentlemen, I mean 6-year-olds are supposedly able to consent to marriage in Islam.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is degenerate.
Yes, it is.
That is backward.
Right.
That is as bad as allowing transvestites into schools to groom children.
That's right. Boo.
Muhammad married a 6-year-old. He had sex with her when she was 9 years old.
What?
9. That is what the hadiths say.
Disgusting.
The Muslims are offended by their own prophet
Why, Bob?
because they're scandalized by their own prophet's behavior, so they have to lie to cover up what the hadiths say.
So they raise the
But
age.
Sahih al-Bukhari is clear. Aisha was 6 when she consented to marriage, and 9 when she had sex. That is degenerate, like letting transvestites in schools to groom children.
It is, Bob.
Christianity has no such concept.
Nothing.
The Christian faith allows our ethical and moral practice to be informed by the best learning.
Right.
And so, Christians and Christian civilizations, and incidentally, the entire world, is raising consistently the age of consent. It's going up around the world because all the science shows that children are too young to engage in sexual practices at 6 and 9.
Right.
Which is incidentally the ages that we are allowing transvestite child groomers to sexualize children in our liberal progressive society. Something many Christians have opposed and are opposing and are going to the courts fighting about.
Also, Muslims are opposed to it as well, Bob. Let's be fair.
But Muslims agree with child marriage.
Okay.
So we are not answering the degeneracy of the West with Islam. We are replacing it with a different kind of degeneracy.
Understood, Bob. Sila.
Next,
Yeah.
Islam permits the raping of female captives.
Wow, I don't believe that, Bob.
That is degenerate.
Disgusting.
We have on record,
Yeah.
on Soko films,
Alright.
multiple Muslims in this park
Yeah.
defending the practice of slavery
Yeah.
and trying to call what is clearly rape marriage. Ladies and gentlemen, Islam permits the capturing of sexual slaves and their rape.
Disgusting.
Safiya
Yeah.
was a captured female slave who was traded amongst the Muslims and ended up in the possession of Muhammad. Muhammad had sex with her within the week of her capture.
With the what?
The week of her capture. A woman who had just seen her father, her uncles, her brothers, and her husband murdered. Murdered. Do you honestly think a woman who is mourning the death of her entire family will suddenly want to have sex with the man that led to that murder?
No way.
No.
No.
She was raped.
Okay, yeah.
And the Muslim community testifies
Yeah.
that because her entire family was murdered, her Muslims stood guard outside of the tent on the nuptial night with a sword to ensure Muhammad's safety. Because that's how in love she was with him. He needed a bodyguard to make sure that she didn't try to hurt him.
Degeneracy.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is not the answer to Western degeneracy. That is just degenerate and backwards.
Right.
Christians have abolished the slave trade around the world.
Yeah, we have.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
When are those liberal progressives in the BLM movement going to campaign to have a statue dedicated to all of those white male Christians who fought and died to suppress the slave trade around the world in the Royal Navy.
That's a good question, Bob Sila.
2,000 Royal Navy sailors died fighting to end the slave trade,
Right.
along with the French Navy and the American Navy, at a time when these countries were dominated by Christians.
Right.
And where did we suppress the slave trade?
Where, Bob?
The Barbary pirates who were Muslims in North Africa, the Ottomans and their slave trade,
Okay.
the slave trade of the Mughal Empire in India,
Right.
the Portuguese slave trade, the Spanish slave trade.
Right.
All of it was abolished by Christians.
Exactly.
But Islam permits slavery.
Ooh.
That isn't the answer to Western degeneracy.
No
That is degenerate.
Correcto.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
we hear about how the West has to destroy the patriarchy because of its abuses of women. And yet the Christian faith 2,000 years ago established that women were people in their own right,
Yeah.
having the same honor as men, being made in the image of God. When Paul wrote in his letter to the Galatians,
Saying,
there is neither man nor woman, that all are one in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
There has been a problem of female abuse in marriage in the Christian world. It has been a Christian problem. I do not deny it.
Okay.
But show me the verse in the Bible that says that a husband can beat his wife.
Show
I
it.
challenge you.
Show it. Show it.
You can't,
Nothing.
because it's not there.
Exactly.
What does the Bible say?
Yeah, tell us.
Love your wife as you love your own body,
Right.
is what it says.
Correct.
Love your wife as Christ loves the church.
Amen.
Honor one another. Submit to one another. These are the teachings of the Bible.
Amen. Amen.
That is the answer to the feminist degeneracy that we have in the West, and the toxic masculinity that we have also had in the West, that seeks to justify the abuse and oppression of women.
Yes.
But what does Islam teach?
Tell us, Bob.
Islam teaches
Yeah.
that if you suspect,
Suspect.
let that word ring in your ears.
Okay, okay, suspect.
Suspicion alone is sufficient.
For
Not proof, not guilt. If you suspect your wife of disobedience,
yeah.
what do?
What should you do?
According to the Quran,
Okay.
first you admonish them. You say, you naughty wife, look what you've done. I have suspected you of wrongdoing and now I'm telling you off.
Okay, okay.
Then you banish them from the bed, is what the Quran says next.
Okay.
So you emotionally abuse your wife. You make her sleep on the couch. But in the European world, because of our chivalry, even if the wife is the one in the wrong, the husband goes and sleeps on the couch.
That's right.
And there's many Western married couples that would admit to that.
yes.
Even when the husband thinks he's right, he still goes and sleeps on the couch.
That's right.
Because we have a code of chivalry given to us in Christianity that says that women should be honored
Right.
and protected.
Yes.
But what's the third punishment that the Quran gives?
Tell us, Bob.
On suspicion alone.
What's the Quran say?
Admonish them, banish them from the bed,
And thirdly,
and then strike them,
beat
is
them.
what the Quran says.
Wow.
The Arabic should be translated as strike. Like you strike a volleyball. There are hadiths that say that you should not strike your wife like you strike your slaves, because you might sleep with her that night. So the Quran permits the beating of slaves, and it compares the punishment of wives to the punishment of slaves. No wonder Muhammad said that your women are like fields, plough them, that the majority of those in hell are women, because they are deficient in their intelligence.
I don't believe that, Bob.
Islam is not the answer to Western degeneracy. Christianity is.
That's right.
The next example of Western degeneracy is abortion. Since abortion was permitted by the progressives, we have killed 90 million of our own children in the West. Trads, conservatives, Republicans, you rage against immigration, but you won't abolish abortion. And you should abolish abortion.
That's right.
It's because we've killed 90 million of our own children that we have to find 90 million in population. Ladies and gentlemen,
Listen to him. Listen to
the
him.
murder of the innocent is a crime. Is a crime.
Please, Bob. Sila.
Christianity believes that life begins at conception, no exceptions,
Nothing.
and all children are innocent, and all children should be protected as the weaker party.
Right, Toe.
Now, what does Islam teach in answer to the degeneracy of the West?
Okay, what's it?
Does it say we should abolish abortion?
No.
No.
Nothing.
Islam doesn't even know when life begins.
Wow.
Some Muslims think that life begins after the 40th day of conception.
Okay.
Some Muslims think at the 120th day of conception. But Muslims, in Surah 5, Ayah 3, does it not say in your Quran that on this day I have perfected your religion for you, completed my blessings for you, and chosen for you the religion of Islam?
Let's say that, yes.
And don't your tasfiyas of Ibn Kathir, amongst others, state that this verse is in reference to the completion of deciding that which is haram and that which is halal? And yet you cannot tell me with any consistency when life begins. And so those Muslims who believe that abortion is illegal, haram, after 40 days, or saying that those Muslims who permit it up to 120 days are committing murder.
You're committing murder.
How can the perfect guidance not manage to tell you when you're killing an innocent soul?
Why didn't your careers advisor tell you to
Ladies and gentlemen, Christianity does not have that problem.
But look what
Is every
Christianity has
sperm
done to
sacred?
you.
There's a question from
Tell us,
Stevie.
is every sperm sacred?
I'll answer questions after my final
The
point.
question was a statement.
Final point.
Finish yourself.
Final
up and we'll come on
point.
to the
That's
sperm.
the final point, Bob. Sila.
The West is degenerate.
Thank you.
Since the 1960s,
And you're the most miserable
and
bastard
the
who
backward
ever-
step of the sexual revolution,
When was the first and
Tell us
only
about
time
sex,
you-
Bob.
we have sexualized our culture,
Sex, Bob, but not
and we have
sperm.
objectified
You need
sex
more Barry White
as
in
an
your life.
experience
You need
to
a love
enjoy.
chorus.
You need
We
a
have
potion.
Dehumanized women,
You need to see a vet.
and we have allowed the dehumanization of marriage. to something like farm animals.
Not of what you know not.
Ladies and
No woman's
gentlemen,
ever going to marry you.
we're behaving no better than chimpanzees. But, ladies and gentlemen, what is the Islamic answer to Western degeneracy?
You bastard are about to tell us, aren't you?
It's polygamous marriage
Okay.
and sex slaves.
Ah,
Why are
you
you so obsessed with
You can have 4 wives in Islam. 4! But women can't have 4 husbands. And a man can have sex slaves as many as his right hands possess. And muta marriages, temporary marriages, which is simply the formalization of prostitution.
Your vet has arrived.
Ladies and gentlemen, hands to yourself, please. Hands to yourself. Hands to yourself. Thank you. Hands to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen,
Friendly, you're
Islam is not the answer to the degeneracy of the West.
Are you the answer to
Christianity is the answer to the degeneracy of the West. Because Christianity teaches
I'm going to give you the
one man,
for ISIS.
one
I
woman
want you to go and
in
do it.
love,
Yes.
in a chaste love,
Right.
vowed to preserve that marriage, to create
I'd like to
stable
preserve you
families
in a
for the
big
basis of a stable society.
Correcto.
The West is fraying and dying because of the sexual revolution.
The 60s, yeah.
And the women of the Muslim world are suffering because of the toxic values of Sharia law. Christianity is the answer to the degeneracy of Islam on one hand and the degeneracy of the progressive West on the other.
We don't want to be like
There
you.
is a third way, a better way.
We want to be
For all of you trads, for all of you conservatives, for all of you Tate fans,
Have you tried
don't believe the lie of the Dawagandists. There is a better way. The Christian faith, as practiced by our ancestors, is the path that we should follow.
Correcto.
Not that limp-wristed, soy boy way of doing things practiced by the Archbishop of Canterbury and the wet, limp-wristed bishops of the Church of England.
Righto. Any
So, ladies and gentlemen, final point,
final point, and then you take questions.
if you have a problem
You've got the bloody
with what I say and you think that the degeneracy of Islam is the answer,
Okay.
I want to say it's not the West that's degenerate, it's you that's degenerate.
Correcto.
There is a better way. His name is Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And he was a Jew.
Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions?
Any questions?
Any
What's
questions
your
going
husband's
once?
name?
Any questions on the topic of
Questions going once?
Twice. Sold to no bidders at all. There's no questions.
no
'cause
questions.
nobody's been
Go on. So the question is,
Why are you still here?
is it okay to own people as property?
To hang you from that tree.
Christians of the New
We want
Covenant
you to be
follow the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ,
Amen.
who said, I have come to set the captives free. He's quoting the prophet Isaiah, who is prophesying about the coming of the Messiah.
We don't know what you're
The
talking
captives
about.
that he is
You just
talking
do
about
something useful and tell us
are
where the-
slaves. Christ said, I have come to set the slaves free. That's what Jesus said. And that is why for 2,000 years you can find that Christians oppose the slave trade, abolish the slave trade multiple times. We abolished the slave trade in England in 1066, at a time when the Islamic slave trade was rampant. we abolished the slave trade across Christian Europe,
Your doctors are
and it was reintroduced by Muslims in Portugal and Spain for 700 years, and that is how slavery re-emerged in the European continent. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any questions?
You make him
Questions going once.
Any questions? Any questions?
You just feed, JC, don't put it, yeah. Bro, you're just feeding the troll. He's just doing it because we're putting the camera on him. Yeah. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
They believe in miracles. Miracles. What?
Before I go on to my next topic, last call. Any other questions?
No question.
Who's got a question?
You destroyed the world we live in. You made slavery.
You got a question or no?
You killed people.
Okay.
You took the land. And you prospered.
Right, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, Bob, no questions.
since there are no questions, I'm going to go on to another topic.
Alright.
I'm going to invite you to come this way. If you want to stay here and listen to him, stay here. If you want to listen to me, I'm going that way. Peace be with you, brother. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk about my next topic.
Which is?
And my next topic, ladies and gentlemen, is about the recent arrest of a Christian for praying silently outside of abortion clinic.